Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. Today I want to talk a little bit about a problem that no doubt all of us have encountered, and that is maybe you're just out car camping or you're maybe in a more remote location, you hiked in or you're portaged, whatever the case may be. You want to get a fire going, but everything is wet and damp, and on a wet, damp day, especially in the fall, that's kind of when you especially want to get a fire going. Okay. And so what can you do? A couple things. The first thing I wanted to show you is notice this tree. I purposely came and set in beside this tree because notice there are dry spots on it. So this has been a pretty um, low wind kind of rainstorm that we're getting. And when you get that, you may find dry areas that are, you know, protected enough that you don't end up with a lot of moisture. But you can't always count on that, especially if it's been windy. So what are you going to do to get your fire going? Well, let's take a look at one good option, especially if you're in more of a remote location or if you're not carrying, a lighter and a can of gas and, a bunch of man-made kindling and stuff like that. Whoops. Okay, so the first thing you might want to do is get yourself a bit of a dry area. I set up this tarp just really quickly. Haven't even tied it on. I'm just using it as a bit of an umbrella to give me a dry area to work. One, you don't want to be you don't want to be fighting with a fire, kneeling down, trying to keep it dry with your body or whatever the case may be. Get yourself a quick tarp, throw it in place. You got to have a dry area to work. So that's going to be step one. Get a place where you can get out of the rain. Okay, here's step two. I'm going to be using a rock, but lots of different things will work for step two, including even the wood you're going to use to eventually start your fire. But I found this rock, and it's going to give me a little bit of a platform to work on that'll keep me up a little bit out of the wet. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is a little bit of an experiment. I have some pieces of wood out here from previous videos, and this has already been split. Okay, so it's really, really wet. What I want to do is take a look at this and see if the inside is dry. Okay. So I've got the Hinderer Range Boss here. This is going to be our cutting tool for this video. There we go. Sorry guys. I picked a particularly miserable piece of wood. But it does help us in that you can see in here, there is some dry wood. Now notice though, the water's gotten in pretty deep. So if you're going to use a piece of wood like this, all right, by the way, this was also laying on the ground, which is something to avoid. If you're going to use a piece of wood like this, understand it's going to have to be a bigger piece of wood and you're going to have to go deeper into it. So right here is dry, but you can see up here and down here is damp. Okay, so what have we covered so far? Get yourself a dry place to work. Get wood that is sufficient in size. And really, this is actually a decent size for what we're trying to do. This is like 2.5, 3 inches, but it's been laying on the ground and it's previously split, which means this is not ideal, okay? So now let's switch over to this. This is a piece of wood that was cut a while back, but it hasn't been laying directly on the ground, okay? It's still wet on the outside, but the inside should be pretty okay. And actually, yeah, that is pretty dry. So let me take a couple of minutes and split this down a whole lot before we get to the next step. All right, so after a couple of minutes, we are down to having a decent amount of internal wood exposed. Now, I'm not going to, because it's not absolutely required, but if you have a larger piece of wood that you can use for this effort, then what you can do is okay, so see how this guy's nicely split down? Now you can take and split this again, taking this wet portion off of the back. So now I've got a fully nice and dry piece of wood. All right, so I have to say this at this point, guys. A lot of people are going to look at this effort and just go, I'm not having a fire today. Okay. And that does, I think, bring up a big part of being able to get and keep a decent fire. And that is, there's going to be some prep work involved. Okay. So don't complain about it. Just go ahead and do the work. All right. Now, the next thing that we want to do is take some of these dry exposed pieces and use them to make some feather sticks. Now, for my case, I don't want to use all of the material that I have because I also have another purpose that I want to achieve with the dry wood that I've got available. Might move the camera here just a little. There we go. There is another purpose that I want to achieve with the dry wood that I've got available, and that purpose is to build myself a little bed to keep the fire that I want to get going. So you can see I've got a bit of a feather stick there going already. I want to take this a little bit further, but in addition, I kind of want to build a little bed for my fire. So I want a bit of a dry area that I'm able to set up a bunch of these feather sticks that I've created. All right, so now that I've got a dry surface to work on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put together a bunch of feather sticks. All right, so once you've taken a few minutes to make a number of feather sticks, this wood is not ideal for making feather sticks. It's kind of splitty and annoying, but nonetheless, it's better to use dry wood that's a little bit contrary than wet wood that's more convenient or more conducive. The next thing you're going to want to do is get some sparks on this. Okay, so once you've got some good curlicues going, you've got a nice little pile of those created, the next step is to get your fire steel or your ferrocerium rod and start to give that some spark. Okay, so when you finally get a spark in here, you kind of want to be gentle with it. You can easily blow it out. But as you can see, we've got a little bit of a fire trying to start. And all I'm going to do is squeeze my material together a little bit tighter. Nope, and I blew it out. So this does show you the challenge of this. I'm going to pause and I'm going to keep trying, but you know, eventually you'll get a little spark in there and you can get a fire going. Okay, once again, we have a little flame coming along here. I'm going to see if I can't just rearrange things ever so slightly. Nope, it didn't work. All right, so we've had a couple of failed attempts. I've rearranged this and we're gonna keep going here a little bit longer. Nope, I'm missing completely. Okay, so that took a little bit of doing, but you can see we're finally starting to get a little bit of fire here. I don't want it to go out, so I'm gonna just carefully place some of these small pieces on there. Okay. The other benefit of doing things this way is you've got a lot of small material that can get you going. Sorry for the time that took. It was a fun experience and it does demonstrate, I didn't want to give up on the video and just not post anything or whatever. But I think it does demonstrate that with a little bit of time and energy, perhaps a lot of time and energy, you can 100% get a fire going, even on a rainy day, so that now, I can cozy up to the side of my fire here and get a little bit of warmth and comfort so that I don't end up getting hypothermia or not being able to roast my marshmallows. All right, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.